Alrighty then, I'm here. Sorry, I exploded yours. You know it. All right, so I'm suffering through this, so therefore I'm going to share my suffering with you, and we can suffer together, perhaps. Or maybe you've already suffered through this, and I apologize if you have. But I wanted to weigh in on AronRa versus Arjun. Yeah, I'm not pronouncing. I probably mispronounced Aaron's name wrong because he has said it, but my words, my lips, my brain doesn't want two words right. But anyways, AronRa versus Arjuna, and Arjuna is apparently a Hindu apologist who, within the time span of 46 minutes and 12 seconds that I've been listening to this exchange, has yet to give any reason why he believes what he believes. He has given no argument, no syllogism, no explanation at all, nothing, not even a little, not even an attempt at it. Nothing. He has given no reason to support his beliefs. Amazing. I'm on the edge of my seat. I'm anticipating the horrible argument that he's going to give, and he hasn't done it yet. And I don't think he's going to. I haven't listened to the rest of it yet. I stopped here just to make this video to comment on what's going on. So, and I leave comments as I listen. Now, I'm hopeful that that's a better way to do it than just to edit them all into one comment, because like more comments is better. But I don't know. That might annoy people. I have no idea. Anyways, Aaron, and I'm sorry I'm mangling your name, but if he happened to listen to this, I doubt it. But, if this annoys you, let me know. I won't do it. I'll edit into one. So anyways, I made the snarky response of, lots of gods are better than one, just to start off things. And then I was wondering when he was going to put forth the reasons that he believes, and he never did that. And then he said about a supreme being that it has to be loving. And I wonder why. I mean, I would have asked him, why does a supreme being have to be anything? What attributes are we saying? It's like, imagine a supreme being. What do you even mean by that? I don't know. But it's like, it has to do this, that, and the other thing. How have you decided that those attributes must be part of a supreme being? You don't have an example of a supreme being. So really you could put anything in there. So I could say, no, a supreme being has to be all hateful. And all the loving that we see is just a consequence of free will, Anyways, and then he mentioned that the Buddha in Hinduism, or at least in his Krishna, I don't know what the differences are or whatever. I don't care. But anyways, in his version or in some versions, like they view Buddha as like an aspect of one of their gods that like was put there to trick atheists, I guess. But why is God tricking people? I don't know. It doesn't. I know you can't see the words. Okay. Anyways. Oh dear. Now see, every time when you try to magnify it, it gets all weird. Okay, here we go. So why is God tricking people? That's really weird. Anyways, so I'm waiting for the bad argument. And then Aaron is talking about the past argument he had with somebody else on this guy's channel. And he's like, no. He was arguing for this. Like, you can't rescue the other guy's argument. It's over. He lost. Done. You make your own argument. I would give a different argument. Okay, give your argument then. You got nothing. Anyway, so he's like really desperate. And he's like, can you put that in a logical form so I can see your assumption? Because you're making the wrong assumption here. And he can't comprehend, it seems like, what AronRa, I'm just going to say Ra, because I can say that for sure. What Ra is saying, he doesn't understand it, or he doesn't want it. I don't know, or I don't know. But he wants a logical format. Here's a logical format, okay? Because he don't get it. There is a physical world we exist in. We've observed laws that govern how things work in this realm. In order to exist in this realm, you must obey the laws of the realm. God does not obey the laws of the realm, therefore God does not exist in this realm. Is essentially, to some degree, all that Ra has been saying. He says, you've got the miracle claim. You've got this supernatural claim. And I can critique the way that he argued it in a bit, but those things are equivalent to anything that breaks physical law. In order to be a miracle, in order to be a supernatural, you must break the laws that we know about. Okay, that is impossible within the physical realm, because those laws only exist. We observe those laws, we observe those rules, and if something breaks it, then we were wrong about that observation, and we would expect then that to see more breaks like that or something. But that too would be observable. It would be demonstrably demonstratable. So you're saying that there's some way to break the rules. And he is saying, if you're playing the game that I'm playing, we're playing by the rules, and you break the rules, we're not playing the same game anymore. You're not playing the same way. So you're saying it's okay to break the rules if you're supernatural. Okay. But within the rules, which we're confined, nothing can break those rules that we're in, that we know about. You and I can't break these rules. You're saying there's another thing that can break those rules, but inside of this realm, by the definition of the laws of nature, of reality, of physics, it cannot be broken. Otherwise, you don't have the physical world anymore. You don't have the physical laws. And he say, well, that assumes that the physical laws are absolute. And my response is like, yeah, I guess. Aren't they? I mean, okay, even if I am assuming that, or even if Ra is assuming that, so what? You're assuming actually more. You're assuming that there is a way to break those laws. And all Aaron is saying, look, you cannot physically exist in the physical realm if you break the laws of physics. That makes sense to me. It makes perfect sense. A physical being couldn't do that. But God is not a physical being. And AronRa is continuously saying this. And he continuously is putting the burden where it belongs, which is on Arjuna. And he keeps trying to get it back to Aaron, because he can't support his burden. He can't show. Ra keeps asking him to show me the thing. Show me there's this other realm. Show me there's this supernatural thing that can break these laws. Stop playing this game of, well, I'm assuming this or I'm assuming that. Whatever. Make your argument. Show me the thing. And he can't do it. He won't do it. Because he can't. He can't show that thing because there isn't a thing to show. So let's listen in. I've already listened to this bit of it. Well, now I've done it. I don't know what the heck I did there. Okay. And then I'll come back and say some more and perhaps critique Ra's. Well, I don't know that I want to do that here. Okay, I'll do it just to clarify, so anyone wondering doesn't have to wonder. An appeal to definition is a potential logical fallacy, but it's sometimes the only thing you can do. Okay, because we're using natural language. This isn't a syllogistic debate. And so supernatural is equivalent to magic. Ra's got that right. He said, look it up. That's not really what I would want him to do. I'd want him to show the different, here's examples of it being pretty much equivalent. And he's right. The definitions are pretty much equivalent. Miracle and magic are almost the same thing, definitionally. That doesn't necessarily make them the same thing, however. If they are things at all, that is to say, if there really is a miracle or if there really is magic, then those two things might not be equal. But what humans have come to understand and or submit that they mean by these words is so similar that one can be substituted for the other without really that much of a problem. And the only people that have problems with that seem to be the theist that doesn't want to use the word magic. But why object to it? What's the problem with magic? If it's the same as miracle, you shouldn't have an objection. But of course, they know that magic doesn't exist, right? Neither do miracles, but they don't get that part because they view miracles as something different. But you cannot. It is very difficult to separate these things beyond the fact that you can't show that miracles and or magic are even things at all. They're not, because they aren't. That's the point.
Not the physical, right?
First, I want to get past this point that you're saying it's impossible.
Physically impossible. Impossible according to physics. But you're not arguing from physics. You're arguing for magic. So show me that.
So I think the way you're using that word is kind of like a victory by definition. You're using language in a way that makes your point seem stronger than it is.
Damn.
Desperation much, come on, man. No. The physical laws make it so that, you can't break those. Otherwise we're not, you're not physical anymore. If you break the physical laws, how can you do that? Yeah, I would say that they're absolute, probably. I mean, at least for the physical stuff. Okay, show me the non-physical. He's not doing it. He won't do it. He can't do it.
Thing. If the supernatural is independent of physics and physics is independent of the supernatural, then physics is irrelevant. Show me something else. The laws of physics don't apply to the supernatural, so why are we still talking about them?
Well, you use it as an argument to say God's existence is impossible.
See, he's really hung up on this. He doesn't like that God's existence has been rendered impossible, but only one type of God's existence. So I've made a different argument about the supernatural. The supernatural is something you couldn't prove even if it was a thing. And so there's no way to prove that God is a thing if God is supernatural. Long time ago, one of my videos that gets a lot of attention for some reason is Smart Kid Dumb Arguments, where this kid that graduated college earlier or was about to made all these bad arguments for God and says, I'm going to prove God using science. And I'm like, well, great. You're going to disprove every or most of gods that people believe in if you succeeded. Because the gods that people tend to believe in the broad majority of gods, at any rate, that people believe in are supernatural. They are not gods that you could ever find using science. Because God, for some, is said to be beyond space and time. Well, that's something you can't look at those things using any tools that we have. Maybe you did invent something that could do it. But if you could see God in any way, or if you could visualize the phenomenon of God, then it's no longer non-physical, whatever that means. It's no longer supernatural. You've made a way to see the thing that you can't see. And so if you put God into the category of the supernatural and then try to use science, which deals only in the realm that we know of, only in this universe that we have dominion in, you cannot find something that is beyond the scope of your abilities to find, even if it exists. So if there's another universe And the only way to see that universe is to see beyond our universe. But none of the tools we could ever make will be able to see beyond our universe. No matter what we did, we couldn't ever do it. Then you would never be able to show that there's another universe if that's the only way to do it, right? And so it could be physically plausible. It could be argued for coherently, perhaps, maybe not validly, depending on the language, I don't know. But you would have something that is a guess. Like, well, I think that there might be another universe. Okay, great. All right. And in that other universe, there's a God or a thing that we would call God. But then you're saying that God is that other universe. It is that universe. And that whole universe that is actually God, that's what we're labeling the universe as, it somehow manipulates and affects our universe. Okay, is that detectable? If yes, then you found a naturalistic explanation to God, which means that God isn't supernatural, or at least isn't using only supernatural. And that's part of the problem, is how would the supernatural interact with the natural? If it's not anything like it, what gives it the ability to manipulate the thing that is so unlike it? And that's where you run into problems. You can't explain it, because more than likely the idea of the supernatural is an idea in your brain, in our brains. It is a concept, a construct we've come up with. We can describe it to some degree, but we can never demonstrate it, because it's not anything more than an abstract idea. If it is, you couldn't find it anyways. So you might guess, and you might guess correctly, but you would never have the methodology to demonstrate that you were correct. And that's where Ra is coming from. And that's the problem, is, of course, he doesn't, Arjuna, I can't say his name, Arjuna, whatever, the Hindu guy, he hates the idea, doesn't like the idea, if you will, that God is impossible. But God is impossible in the physical realm, by the laws of physics. So you have to then posit a God. It doesn't matter, because God's not in the physical realm. So Ra is right. It doesn't matter. You're positing a different realm anyways. But you can't get over his statement that's true. Just make your argument, though. Is he ever going to make it?
Will you
Physically impossible. You have a learning disorder? What is the problem? You're not getting that word. Say physically impossible. Then figure out that, hey, we're not going to be talking in physics. So we're going to be using something else.
So what's the value of saying it's physically impossible then,
Because
if
it
it doesn't
is!
have any bearing on it, whether it's true or not?
I tried to give you two different things. One, within physics, which is all we know so far, it is impossible, physically impossible. Then, in order to show that there is a possibility, you can't just say that anything is possible, because we know lots of things that are not possible. But if you want to show that there is a possibility, you have to show a precedence or a parallel or a verified phenomenon indicating that possibility exists. Do you have that?
No.
I mean, you're aware of Hempels' dilemma?
Is that a yes?
So you see the avoidance of the question. I love this. And I've experienced this so many times with apologists. A yes or no question. Do you have the proof that I'm asking for? Yes or no? Well, what about this? Yes or no? You don't. He doesn't. He doesn't. What about this dilemma? What about that? What about, on Germania's channel, is like the guy that came was like, have you ever thought about, X or whatever, that you can't explain, that you have all these questions that you don't know anything about? Like, yeah, I've thought about that. Or no, I have never thought about that. So what? What's that? It doesn't mean anything. You're like, oh, you haven't thought out your worldview. Like, whatever. I don't care. And so what? What's your point? I still don't believe in God. It doesn't matter. But anyways, it's pure desperation. So I don't know this dilemma. I don't really care.
Yes or no?
So Hempels' dilemma is the idea.
Yeah. So in other words, he's not going to say yes or no. He's going to go off into the tangent. He's going to go off into the red herring. Wow. desperation.
problem of how we don't, the claim that's involved in Hempels' dilemma is that physics will explain everything. So then the question comes up, well, does
That's
current
not my
physics
problem.
explain everything, or will future physics
Not
explain
my
everything?
problem.
Hempels' dilemma. Okay, so yeah, well, does current physics explain everything, or future physics will explain everything? I don't care. It's not my, yeah, and I agree with Ra. It's not my problem. It's not a problem. It's like we might discover something later on that we then are able to utilize to better explain reality. Great. So it might be that future science can figure out how everything came to be and have all the answers to every question that we have. And there would be zero room then for God if you've answered everything. But of course, the apologists could just say, well, but God made the thing that explained that. And that's the thing. It's like, it's irrelevant. Who cares? Answer Ra's question. Do you have the evidence or not? Do you have anything? I don't think he will. I don't think he will answer yes or no, and I do not think he will produce anything other than bad arguments. Let's see.
Because I said the supernatural that you believe in is irrelevant to physics, and physics is irrelevant to the supernatural. So I don't have that dilemma. Fix the error in your perception so that we may move on.
Well, I think we should drop this word physical then and just talk about reality.
Well, then
Same
show
thing.
me there's an alternate reality then. There's the physical reality, and then there's the one you believe in on top of that. We both accept the physical reality exists. You believe in another one on top of that. For what reason?
Right, but your argument for God's existence being impossible has just lost all its teeth.
Who
Can I speak
cares?
something out of nothing? Can I say abracadabra and poof, there's a thing? Is that physically
The
possible?
cat wants attention.
Does that defy the laws of physics?
Yeah, but you're not God.
So
We're not.
miracles defy the laws of physics, right?
Right. See, this is that cat in the background.
So turning water
Sure.
into wine, that defies the laws of physics, right? So physically impossible. That's what a miracle is. Again, by definition, not assumption, definition that you can look up objectively.
Yeah.
So show me that there's something other than this physics. I'm completely open to the possibility. If you can create one, if you can show me one, I'm open to it.
So
show me.
The next step would be to establish that it's possible for things to go beyond the laws of physics.
No, that is not the next step. The next step is to show him the thing that he's asking for, you nitwit. Oh my word. It's not about whether that we could go beyond it or whatever. That's irrelevant. It doesn't matter. Show him. Give him an example. Show him a miracle. Demonstrate something. But you can't do it. It's not a thing. So this is argumentation by evasion. That's what I'm going to label this as. I'm going to evade the thing that you were asking me for and say, well, okay, maybe we could go beyond physics. Like, okay, whatever, how, what, I remember Matt Slick's thing way back when, some sort of weird argument that he had, like, well, isn't it possible that eventually humanity could have such technology that we could, do things that now we would consider to be impossible? And it's like, yeah. And it's like, so you're arguing that God was once a human? Like, yeah. I could, in my brain, I could think about that. Yes, we could get to a point where if we had nanotech and really good nanotech, and we could manipulate things on a small scale, we could maybe make a universe, or maybe we could do it easier with a really good computer or something, right? Okay, then we are the creators. We are essentially the gods of that universe, but we still have laws that we must obey. We're not supernatural. Maybe the rules of the program, I can break those rules because I can change the rules because I wrote the program. But once I change those rules, or once I break those rules, there's going to be evidence that I did so that I could then demonstrate to you. I could show you how the code works. I could show you that you're made up of, whatever zeros and ones, right? If I'm the programmer and I'm smart enough to do it, if I'm smart enough to program you, I should be smart enough to show you that I'm indeed the programmer. And that I can place an avatar of myself in the program and say, look, this isn't the real me. Maybe I could have a webcam show the real me and feed that into the program somehow so they could see the real reality. And maybe they look identical. I don't know, but that would make me a physical god, not a supernatural god. So but it could be demonstrated and it wouldn't break the laws of physics. But a non-physical god, a supernatural god, whatever that is physically impossible. Period. End of story. Doesn't matter, though, because you're dealing in some sort of realm where that doesn't apply. Those rules don't matter. Okay, great. How does that work? Do we have a demonstration of that? Do we have an example of that? No, we don't. Let's be honest here. He's not going to be, he's an apologist.
As we understand them. So
that's what I've been asking you for.
The first point is that the laws of physics, as we understand them, are not a complete picture. We don't have a complete description of reality. That physicists
it's irrelevant anyway. We're talking about the supernatural, so the laws of physics have nothing to do with it. Show me that there's something else.
I'm talking about reality here. I'm not limiting my understanding of reality to
right, and I'm not limiting
scope. Now that's interesting. Reality, like he's not limiting his view of reality to things that we understand and can observe and see and test. Okay, I'm not either, but the only things I can actually know about are the things that I can observe, see, test, have a logically valid argument for, whatever. Everything else is philosophy or religion.
Either. I'm open that there's a material world, and you're suggesting that there's this magical world
He's never going to give him what he wants,
or encompassing that, enveloping. I don't know. I don't care. You're going to show me this other thing that you assume exists. Why do you assume that?
So the next point is to show the gaps in physics, which
okay, all right, that's it. I've had enough. I can't. I made my point. I made my point that I wanted to make on this guy. This guy, Arjuna or whatever, he wouldn't last a few minutes on my channel if he actually talked to me, which I don't think he would, because I would nail him and I'd put the same limitation on him that Ra is trying to. I'd say, look, you need to answer the question. You need to stop bouncing around, stop equivocating, stop him-hawing, demonstrate this thing, or get out. And the moment that he didn't, I'd be done. I'd kick him out. I'm done. There's no point. There's no point. He's not going to do it. He's never going to do it. He can't do it. No theist can. No theist will. This is essentially the core bottom of what the difference between skepticism and religion or theology is that we that don't believe in God accept reality as we can observe it. Once you're introduced to the concept of God, or you come up with the concept of God and you begin to believe it because it's so attractive to your brain, you make excuses for it, but all it really is something you came up with. It's not actually real. If it is, you'd be able to find it. But then they say, well, no, the reason you can't find it is it's not findable in that way. It's findable in a different way. You have to go through the spiritual journey to find the spiritual. You can't go through the physical journey to find the spiritual. Well, show me there is a spiritual. Well, you can't see that unless you take the journey. It's like you can't do magic until you believe in magic. And then once you do believe in magic, then I'm done, and then I don't have to show you any magic because you believe, so my work is done. Wow. Amazing. Just amazing. This guy is not going to ever do what Ra wants him to do. And I'm not surprised. So I don't know if that was something. I I wanted to share a little bit of my pain with you guys and girls and robots out there. And I don't know, maybe you liked it, maybe you didn't. Let me know. All right, I'm gonna listen to the rest of this, maybe if I can if I can stand it, and I'll do a different thing later on. All right, later. Oops.